So the square-based pyramid that was made out of the VHS tapes had sides that were 26.5 inches long to make the square at the bottom, and then the slant height was about 13.75 inches long, 13 3/4. Well, the formula for volume of a pyramid is 1/3 the area of the base times the height. So we can find the area of the base. That's a square, so it's 26.5 times 26.5, but we still need the height. Now if you see, the height in the pyramid is going to make a right triangle with that slant height. And so to illustrate for a second, take a couple of Lego pieces here. They make a square-based pyramid together. And so the height is going to go straight down that middle. And so if we look at the height of one of these pieces, the height is halfway across the length of the side. So the length of the side, the height is going to be halfway across that. And then it's making a right triangle with the slant height and the height. So that means this bottom part of the right triangle is exactly half the distance across the square. It's half of that side. Now this only works with squares, rectangles, when you have right angles in the corners, that this will be exactly half. So half of 26.5 means this is 13.25. 26.5 divided by 2. It almost looks like a B, but that's 13. So to find the height, we need to take height squared plus 13.25 squared equals 13.75 squared. So the slant height is the hypotenuse. So then we go to the calculator, and we're going to take 13.25 squared $175.5625. 13.75 squared is 189.0625. Subtract the 175.5625, and I get that the height squared equals 13.5. So now I have to take the square root of 13.5. Square root 13.5 takes me to 3.67. So the height is 3.67 inches. Now if you remember in the video, we expected it to be 5 inches. And this is not near close enough to being 5 inches. Well, as I brainstormed why they were not lining up, I realized I was measuring the slant height from the top of that bottom row of videotapes, but I measured the height all the way down to the floor. So the thickness of one of the videotapes, VHS tapes, if I measure that across, try and get that focused. Yeah, I have to bring it up just a little bit more. So measuring that, it's more than 1 inch, but it's not quite to the 1 1/3 inch that I expected it to be. But even if I just add 1 inch onto this, get this refocused. Just a little bit bigger. All right. Okay, so if I add 1 inch onto this, that's going to get me up to 4.67. And that difference compared to 5 inches could be enough to say that just my measurement of the lengths of the sides, the measurements of the slant heights, they might be off by enough that it would cause this extra sort of 1/4 of an inch, 1/3 of an inch, that is the difference here in the measurements. So there's a few things that could go into play there, but it comes down to my not being able to measure as accurately as I need to. So 3.67 is the height. So the volume of the pyramid is 1/3, and then the area of the base. So I'm taking 26.5 times 26.5, length times width, and then multiplying that by the height, which I got is 3.67. So now I go to the calculator and type in, the 1/3 times 26.5 times 26.5 times 3.67. And so my volume ends up at 859.085. So the 5 rounds this up to a 9. 0.8 goes, it's closer to 0.09. And this was measured in inches, and its volume, so these are cubic inches. Right. Now, surface area of this pyramid. Well, surface area, sometimes it's hard to remember formulas. Surface area can just be found by adding all of the sides together. And in a pyramid, this is especially helpful because the formula only works if the base is a equilateral. It needs to be a regular base, I believe. And so there's plenty of pyramids that are made that are not squares on the bottom or equilateral triangles. And so in that case, we need to add all of the sides together. So that means the area of the bottom, the square, and so that's the 26.5 times 26.5. I'm going to call it 26.5 squared. And then I'm going to add the area of each of the triangles that fold up to make the pyramid. And so each of these triangles have a base that's 26.5 and a height. Now it's the slant height, because the slant height is the height of the triangle, 13.75 inches. So I'm taking 1/2 times the base times the slant height, because that's the height of the triangle. Now, each of these triangles have a base of 26.5 and a slant height of 13.75. The two on the back side, same base, same slant height. So if all of your triangles are the exact same size, they have the same base and same height, then we can multiply whatever that area of that triangle is by the number of triangles. There are 4 triangles They have a base of 26.5 and a height of 13.75. And so the area of all four of those triangles plus the square at the bottom gives me the surface area. So, because it's regular base, notice that 4 times 26.5 will give me the perimeter of the base, which is where you'll see occasional formulas using. Alright, so I go to the calculator, and I'm going to type in 26.5 squared plus, now the area of the triangle is 1/2 or 0.5 times 26.5 times 13.75. That's the triangle, and I've got 4 of those. So I'm going to multiply that triangle by 4 to find a surface area of 1,431 square inches. Measuring area, we're covering it with squares. Measuring volume, we're filling it with cubes.